I genuinely believe this fantasy football waiver wire heading into week 9, this is a top 3 waiver wire of the season, easily, in my opinion. And we will start at the wide receiver position with Troy Franklin. Now, I posted this tweet last week before week 8 kickoff. And this is stats per RotoViz, where we look at the expected wide receiver fantasy points from the week before, okay? Based on the utilization, routes run, snaps, type of routes, depth of target, all those good things that I don't do, right? The GOAT RotoViz puts these things together. And last week in week 7, the expected wide receiver fantasy points, okay? Jamar Chase had the most, almost 40. That's insane. Travis Hunter, 25.9. Ladd McConkey, 25.6. JSN, 24.2. Keenan Allen, 23.5. Rashee Rice, 22.4. All good names so far, right? Jordan Addison, 20.6 at 7. And then at number 8, over 20 expected fantasy points, 20.2 expected points, Troy Franklin. Now, that was based on this week 7 game here, where we see, okay, 10 targets, only caught 3, got a touchdown. Cool. So heading into week 8, looking at that, I was like, okay, we could have something here. Like, we could definitely have something here. There was a point in the season, I think it was through 5 weeks, where he was actually completely tied with Courtland Sutton in terms of targets. We look at Sutton yesterday, and 6 targets yesterday. He also saw 10 in week 7, right? But last 2 weeks, Franklin has out-targeted him. Actually, the last 3 weeks, okay, we take it all the way back to week 5, Sutton had 10, and that's kind of where you see the discrepancy. But the last 3 weeks, Troy Franklin has been out-targeting Courtland Sutton. The offense is very good. It's finally clicking. Bo Nix is back. He delivers these deep balls to Troy Franklin. Sometimes it's Mims, sometimes it's Bryant, sometimes it's Sutton. But most of the time, these deep passes, these Russell Wilson-esque, Tyler Lockett-esque in his prime, okay, passes are going to Troy Franklin. I mean, there was 2 or 3 a drive, honestly, of like 15 plus yards down the field. He had another pass here in the end zone in the first half before he scored it all. And it was a bomb, like a 50-yard bomb, kind of hit him in the chest and, ended up not catching it. But moral of the story, guys, 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, 18 targets in the last 2 weeks. He is averaging well over 50 yards a game here. There's a lot to like. 26.9 points yesterday in PPR. He finally put it all together. I mean, I'm seeing here 1, 2, this is the 3rd, 4th game of 8 or more targets. That's in half the games. He has 8 or more targets. He is absolutely flexible, in my opinion. You get Houston in week 9. It's not a great matchup. Then the Raiders, easy. Then Kansas City, they'll probably have to throw a lot. Then the bye. Washington, Raiders, Green Bay. Those are all good. Jacksonville's kind of tough. And then KC in the finals. So a couple tough matchups, but Troy Franklin, honestly, in standard 12-team leagues, should be rostered. He is a fine flex, kind of, wide receiver 30 to 36 range, if you will. I really like Troy Franklin. Moving on to 2 guys who I'm not super sold on. And the way I do these videos, guys, as you know, is it's not in order of who I like the most. Check the Twitter. The thread will drop in the morning or whenever it drops. And I will kind of rank them for you, offer some fab recommendations, right? But I'm more so just discussing the options. I want you guys to be able to click on these videos, jump to the player you want to hear about, you're considering, and hear my thoughts, right? So with Kayshon Boutte, the targets are just not enough for me right now. It's just screaming boom bust. And we have 3 games in a row of booming, which is awesome. Week 6, 26 points, 13 points in week 7, 16 points in week 8. That's awesome. But then the 4 weeks before that, on the same amount of snaps, mostly the same amount of targets. Okay, he had around 3 targets, and then in 2 of the past 3 games, he's had 5. In the other one, he had 2. So it's like 2 or 3 or 5. Okay, we saw 8 in week 1, haven't seen it in 7 weeks. It's just a very boom bust to me. We have Stephon Diggs. We have the Pats in the market for a wide receiver. Even if they don't get one, it really is just the deep shots. Like, Boutte is just here to catch these deep passes, in my opinion. So I prefer Franklin over him. I prefer a good amount of the other guys we're going to talk about over him. Alec Pierce is somewhat similar to me. I saw Pierce ranked around wide receiver 24, 25, 26 in a lot of weekly rankings heading into week 8. And I just couldn't understand it. Josh Downs is back. Now, he only had 3 targets yesterday. Caught a touchdown, though. But Downs is back. Obviously, Michael Pittman's the wide receiver 1. Jonathan Taylor exists. Tyler Warren. Okay, so I just didn't understand why Pierce, in this game that was clearly going to be run heavy, huge favorites versus Tennessee. I understand their defense is horrendous. L'Jarius Sneed's on IR, all this good stuff. That's all great. I just didn't see the need for the Colts to be in a battle here, putting up 30 points, taking deep shots, and they didn't. He only caught 2 passes yesterday for 69 yards. Now, his yards per catch is very good. I'll just, he's played 6 games this year. I'll read you the yards per catch in the games. 36, 17, 17, 24, 20, and 35 yesterday. That's awesome. That's great stuff. But again, 1 game this year, over 5 targets. 1. So it's just very similar. It's the same amount as Kayshon Boutte. These guys are boom bust, fill in flex options for me. A guy I prefer to both of them long term, right? If you're just looking for a guy to pick up, is Malik Washington. Now, with his targets, okay, 5+ in 4 straight games, that's a month of 5+ targets in a consistent role. And I look at the snaps, 58%, 64, 44, right? Way less than Pierce, almost at 90, and less than Boutte as well, around 65% on average. Malik Washington has a lot of room to grow in this offense, a lot for his utilization to just continue to increase, and his baseline of 5 targets is already very good. They're designing plays for him. They're giving him specific looks to get in the end zone. He scored on one yesterday, and I think he's just a very good long-term play. We've heard some Jaylen Waddle trade rumors, right? Maybe they happen, maybe they don't, but he kind of is in this Waddle role now, except he's not even fully there. He is the wide receiver 2 on the team for Tua. Waddle has an injury history. Seems like he leaves the game every game injured. So if Waddle were to go down, something would happen to him, traded, whatever. Washington's an instant flex. And now I think filling in, right, if you need during the bye week, whatever, he has the same value as Pierce and Boutte. To be clear, Franklin is clear of every wide receiver we will discuss on the waiver show today, including Darnell Mooney. I really like Darnell Mooney. I actually think yesterday he was in line for such a big day here with Kirk Cousins against Miami. And what happened? 1 catch for 11 yards. It's absolutely awful, but Kirk Cousins should not be an NFL quarterback. That was, we've seen a couple displays this week. Carson Wentz, for example. Kirk Cousins. I have never, honestly, I'm being honest. I'm not upset about it. I'm being honest. I have never seen worse quarterback play in my life. The only other thing comparable is that one game had to be 6 or 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, where Nathan Peterman came in, I think it was for the Bills, and just instantly threw like 3 pick sixes. That is the only thing off the top of my head that I can. Kirk Cousins and Carson Wentz should instantly retire from the NFL. They have 0 worth in the NFL. 0. If any of those guys are playing, you can't play the other defense, okay? And you can't play anyone attached to them. Sorry, that's the truth. Now, Mooney, I think he's going to get dropped in a lot of leagues. I actually like him as a pickup, not as much as Franklin. I do prefer him over Washington, okay? But when Penix is back, you're going to see Mooney have around a 20% target share. He had 5 targets and for 68 yards in that Week 7 game, the first game he was back. In Week 3, all the way up at 11 targets. So Penix kind of picks and chooses his spots. It really is Mooney, London, and Pitts. That's all you got in the passing game, and then a little bit of Bijan. So I really like that. I think he'll be dropped in a lot of leagues. I'd pick him up. New England, Indy, Carolina, New Orleans, Jets. These are all good matchups, especially that Jets one. You would assume Sauce Gardner will be all over Drake London. So yeah. All right. Some deeper names now at the wide receiver position. The first one is Chimere Dike. Now he comes out yesterday, 8 targets. He got in the end zone in Week 7 on 4 targets, 4 catches for 70 yards. Yesterday, like I said, 8 targets, caught 7 for 93 yards. The rookie from Florida. And this team, the Titans, is begging for a wide receiver 1. We look at the roster and the depth chart, okay? Calvin Ridley. I mean, literally a waste of money, waste of roster spot, waste of everything for fantasy football. Calvin Ridley, you can drop Calvin Ridley. Seriously, you can drop him. Because on the waiver wire, every week you'll see 2 or 3 receivers who will perform just as good as him. So yeah, he can be dropped. Seriously, you can drop him if he's in your IR, keep him there, but he can be dropped. Ayomanor is honestly almost as bad as Ridley. Has had every single opportunity to step up. Weeks 1 and 2, weeks 3, whatever it was, that span, he was actually better than Ridley. In terms of utilization, more targets, wasn't doing as much with them, but we were like, oh wow, there could be some signs here. No. Droppable. Do not roster him. Seriously, if you have a Ayomanor on your team, drop him right now. There are 45 receivers on the waiver wire who are better. Chimere Dike. This is what I'm talking about, dude. Okay, 8 targets, 7 for 93, didn't get in the end zone, but finally, like we see some life out of these Tennessee receivers, and with these rookies, you got the bye coming up in week 10. Maybe, just maybe, he comes out of the bye. They feature him more. I mean, Ridley probably misses week 9, honestly, since they have the bye in week 10. So I'd be all over DK on waivers, and he's going to go pretty cheap. Next guy, similar, is Darius Slayton. Now, Slayton, week 6 and 7 was out. In week 5, he had 6 targets. Pretty awesome. Comes back in week 8, 5 targets for 2 catches, 26 yards, but he had a monster touchdown called back. Monster touchdown. It was like a 65-yard touchdown on some pass interference or something that literally was pretty soft. So soft. My point is, it looks like it's Wandale and Slayton as the 2 guys here. Jackson Dart is capable on the deep ball, on the intermediate throws. Those are where Slayton excels. For the most part, when we've seen Slayton given opportunity, he's actually stepped in and been pretty good. Another example of that was yesterday. Like I said, touchdown called back. So his box score doesn't reflect how good of a game he had. He is honestly a flex you can just throw right in. San Fran, Chicago, Green Bay. Good matchups coming up, especially Chicago and Green Bay. So I'd be looking to put Slayton kind of in the flex there if you really need somebody. Over 2 guys, for example, like Jaden Higgins and Jaylin Noel. Now, these are 2 good players on the Texans. They're both very talented rookies. Noel had 6 targets again yesterday, over 11 fantasy points. Great. Higgins caught his 2nd touchdown of the year, 2nd of his career, 13.5 points. Great, but they're just not being utilized in this full-time role. They're kind of being utilized similar to like Franklin or Malik Washington, and they play for the Texans where you have Nico Collins, Christian Kirk coming back. So I'd be a little cautious with these guys in deeper leagues, sure, but I just think the recent targets are inflated a bit by the 2 alphas not being in the lineup. All right, we will move now to the running back position, and there is juice. There is juice here for the running backs. Honestly, maybe the best running back week we've seen in a while. Now, Tyrone Tracy, obviously we have Cam Scatterbo going down to season-ending injury. That was awful to watch. I mean, that was just no comments, and man, hope he's good and can come back. Now, with Tyrone Tracy for fantasy football purposes, when we've seen Tracy, okay, in this role, this is last year's game log now. Weeks 5 through, right, I'm just looking for the 60% plus snaps. It really is weeks 5 through the end of the season, okay? He started taking over here. He's shown the ability to the Giants organization, this is his 2nd year now, to take on a workload and do good things with it. I'll read you his opportunity count here. Last year, when they first started featuring him, 20 opportunities, then 23, then down at 9 against the Eagles. Okay, I wonder what happened there. Back up to 23, 17, 20. Then they have the bye week. He comes out 13, comes out again the next game, 12, 26 opportunities the next game in week 14 with 10 targets, then 14, then 11, then 23. So I'd be pretty surprised if Tyrone Tracy is not a top 24 running back moving forward. At least. You're going to have Devin Singletary working a little bit, but no more than Tracy was already working into Scatterbo. So I don't want to hear the Scatterbo people who are upset that he's out for the season tell me that Devin Singletary is going to be a factor here when they were saying that Tyrone Tracy is not a factor. Or, yeah, exactly. So I really like Tyrone Tracy. He is a full fab dump if he's on your waivers. 35% roster, so to 65% of you, he's available in your leagues. And this is a full fab dump, RB2 moving forward. Good matchups coming. San Fran, Chicago, Green Bay. These are good matchups. Really like Tyrone Tracy. Zonovan Knight is a sneaky name, so he had the bye last week, and he could have been dropped. But we look now in week 9 versus Dallas. And we saw yesterday what the Broncos running backs did to Dallas. Before the bye week here, Zonovan Knight had 18 opportunities, over 4 a carry. He took over this backfield from Michael Carter. And against Dallas, it looks as though this will continue. He's probably in line for 15 opportunities. A-plus matchup. Probably inside my top 20, top 24 running backs again here in week 9. Tyler Allgeier is a name that always makes the waiver wire column. And the reason I put him here in this show is to tell you I'm not that interested. I'm just not that interested. We have 3 games over 10 points. Okay. We've played 7. The other ones are absolute lineup crushers. 1.6 points, 1.4 points, 2.4 points are in 3 of his games. He scored 9.4 yesterday. Only 6 opportunities against the worst ranked defense in the league, the Miami Dolphins, versus running backs. And I guess my thing is, like, if the Falcons were this juggernaut of a team like the Lions are, where we know exactly what they're going to do in games, we know exactly how that game script's going to go, like we thought we did in Miami, I'd be like, sure, maybe this could be, the David Montgomery here to Bijan Robinson's Jahmyr Gibbs vibes. Okay. But no, this is not the case. This is not the case. We had Bijan Robinson come out yesterday. I don't even know what he scored. I mean, what was it? 4 points? Comes out yesterday, 5.8 points. That can't happen, right? That cannot happen. I'm not buying into the second running back on the team when that's happening with the RB1. So I would honestly be ignoring the Tyler Allgeier discussion. If you have Bijan Robinson, roster Allgeier as a handcuff, nothing more. Kyle Monangai makes the list again. If he's still not rostered in your league, he must be rostered. 7 opportunities yesterday. Swift had 13. But I think Swift is kind of coming back from injury here, whatever. Regardless, Swift, 15 plus points in 4 straight games. Monangai is now getting worked in. He is startable in really good matchups. I thought yesterday might have been one of them. They got Cincinnati this week, so you can definitely play Monangai, and he's just a priority running back ad, rostered in 54% of leagues, so most likely not available. Now, Tyjae Spears, I mean, this is a guy who could be taking over the Tennessee backfield. I've told you, since June, that Tyjae Spears is the best running back in this backfield. We saw it yesterday. So now we have 3 straight games of over 4.4 a carry. 2 of those are over 6.2 a carry. 3+ targets in every single game. Yesterday, he gets in the end zone. On 12 touches, he scores 17 fantasy points. On 12 touches. Gets the Chargers in week 9, and then in week 10 has the bye. Out of the bye, I'd be very surprised if he's not featured more. Maybe Tony Pollard gets traded. Spears is better. Like when I'm looking at Spears versus Pollard, even though Pollard's going to go get 2-3 more touches, Spears is the better play in lineups. I want Spears in my lineups, especially in PPR. Moving on, a guy that a lot of people aren't talking about, but Dylan Sampson. We have Quinshon Judkins leaving the game. Did not return. Looks like a shoulder injury. Whatever. He's a very physical runner, so who knows how that's going to go. Instantly, Dylan Sampson back to his 6 targets. In week 1, he had 8. Was dominating. Okay? We all remember, week 1, Dylan Sampson. Wow. 17 points in week 1. He's back. If Sampson is the starter coming out of the bye, because Quinshon Judkins is not healthy yet, they have the Jets, then Baltimore, then Vegas. Goodness gracious. A-plus schedule. Remains to be seen how injured Judkins is, if at all, right? If he's missing any time at all. But he did leave the game and was ruled out. So very interested in him. Devin Neal is also flying under the radar, in my opinion. I think Kamara got a little banged up there at the end of the game. Was unclear which leg it was, whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kamara is kind of limited in practice or has a DNP on Wednesday or whatever. Here we see the news, courtesy of Sleeper, courtesy of Fantasy Pros. Neal was rotating into the game even before Kamara suffered a potential lower body injury late in the second quarter. The potential injury to Kamara makes Neal a speculative waiver ad. Word. So we'll see. Neal, like I said, was on our stash list last week. 3-down skill set. Very productive at Kansas. They're the best running back in the school's history at Kansas, right? We always love rookie running backs down the stretch. 3 targets, 3 catches, 11 yards. Nothing crazy yesterday, but Rams are coming up. Carolina's coming up. You have to like Devin Neal. Tank Bigsby is similar to Neal. We saw Saquon leave the game, and apparently he could have came back. He said he could have come back, whatever. They have the bye this week. If Saquon misses any time, Tank Bigsby is, you put him right in against Green Bay, Detroit, Dallas in week 12, Chicago week 13. It really doesn't matter. Whoever it is, you put him right in, and he'll probably give you RB2 value, to be honest with you. So a good stash. And it's just a reminder, if you have Saquon, any of these older running backs, right? JT, any of these guys crushing it with a bit of an injury history, McCaffrey, get the handcuff. You need him on your team. It's worth it, okay? We have a couple running backs here, 4 running backs mainly, who are in, I'll say 3, because one of them I prefer over the other 3. Blake Corum, Bhayshul Tuten, and Ollie Gordon. With stuff happening to Judkins, Saquon, I'm looking at these 3 and I'm like, yeah, you guys could have value soon. We actually saw Ollie Gordon with 11 touches yesterday, got in the end zone, so he is the best one out of these 3. Then I would go Bhayshul Tuten, who out of the bye could have more of a role. And then I would go Blake Corum, who also out of the bye could have more of a role, but he's not a rookie. All right, that's how I'd rank those 3. They are more of stashes, handcuffs approaching standalone value, especially Gordon. Isaiah Davis, I prefer over all those guys. I prefer over most of the guys we've mentioned today. 12 opportunities yesterday. It's a season high on attempts, season high on targets, season high on catches, season high on scrimmage yards. He had over 100. 17.9 fantasy points yesterday. He's very good when he gets the ball in his hand. Breece Hall had a monster day. These guys combined for over 50 total fantasy points versus the Bengals. It's part of the reason I said Kyle Monangai, DeAndre Swift are both great starts next week. Obviously Swift, but even Monangai. Okay. So Davis must be watched heading into the bye. For the tight end position, nothing crazy. Harold Fannin, obviously rostered in 66% of leagues, but he has reached the point for me now where he is an every week start, top 12 option at the position. 2 touchdowns in the last 4 games. 8 targets here. No game with less than 4 targets. He's had 2 of those, every other game 5 or more. Multiple games with 8+ targets. He's had 3 of those on the year. 62 yards yesterday. 3rd most in any game for him this season. Against the Pats, who are a pretty good defense. He's scoring the ball now. David Njoku was active. Still coming in at 75% plus of the snaps, and we've just seen that role grow. So he's a nice trade target. The team who has him on the bye, maybe they have a better tight end or whatever, and they don't really want to hold him. Maybe you can kind of go buy him on the low on the bye. More of a trade target as opposed to a waiver ad. A true waiver ad, though, is Colston Loveland with Cincinnati, the Giants, who just allowed Dallas Goedert to score 2 touchdowns on them in both matchups, I think. Maybe he has 3 in the last 2 matchups, whatever. You get Minnesota. We saw what Gaston did to them. So the schedule coming up for Colston Loveland is very good. Most likely a season high % of snaps. Early in the game, I know he was playing like 75% with Cole Kmet out. Remains to be seen how long Cole Kmet is out, but he had season high in targets, okay, and season high in receiving yards yesterday. 12.67 yards per catch. I really like what Colston Loveland brings to the team. Like you just saw when Caleb got him the ball, it was like, oh wow, who is this? Like just looks out of place on the field in a good way. So he is the target for waiver wire tight ends this week heading into week 9. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you like this new style of video. Let me know down below, and good luck on Waiver.